The photograph was taken on May 12, 1844, on the muddy bank of the Yazoo River, approximately 3 miles north of the Patterson Plantation in western Mississippi, by itinerant photographer William Harrison, who'd been commissioned by plantation owner Thomas Patterson to document unusual animal companionship for the extraordinary price of $8.25. Because Harrison had never before seen a human being embrace a living alligator and survive to be photographed. The image shows a black boy who appears to be approximately 16 years old, standing barefoot in shallow water while holding a young alligator approximately 6 feet in length against his chest, in a position that suggests affection rather than restraint. Both subjects positioned against a background of cypress trees and Spanish moss that defined Mississippi's extensive wetland territory. What Harrison's camera couldn't capture during the 100-second exposure required by his primitive daguerreotype equipment was that the boy, whose name was Samuel Price, was enslaved property valued at $550 in Patterson's estate ledgers, that he'd found the alligator 3 years earlier in 1841 when it was a yearling suffering from severe injuries that would have killed it without intervention, and that over the next 9 years, between 1844 and 1853, Samuel would use the alligator he'd named Brother to kill 23 people, 12 overseers, 8 plantation owners, 2 slave catchers, and 1 plantation physician who'd performed forced medical experiments on enslaved children, staging the deaths through coordinated attacks that demonstrated unprecedented cooperation between human and predator, culminating in a single-night massacre on August 17, 1852, when Samuel and Brother killed 8 overseers simultaneously during a plantation gathering, creating the most spectacular mass killing in Mississippi history, and triggering a wave of plantation abandonments that freed 237 enslaved people when their owners fled the region in supernatural terror. Samuel Price was 16 years old in May 1844. Stood approximately 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighed roughly 132 pounds, and had been enslaved since birth on the Patterson Plantation, where his mother worked as a field hand and his father had worked as a carpenter until being sold to Alabama in 1837 when Samuel was 9 years old. Thomas Patterson operated a cotton plantation with 203 enslaved workers who cultivated, harvested, and processed cotton during the growing season that ran from April through October each year, a period of 16-hour workdays that killed approximately 814 workers annually, from heat exhaustion, snake bites, equipment accidents, or infections from untreated injuries sustained during forced labor. The plantation maintained extensive riverfront territory where enslaved workers fished and trapped for supplemental protein, and Samuel had been assigned to fishing work at age 11 when Patterson recognized his unusual comfort level around water and his ability to navigate the river's dangerous currents and hidden sandbars that killed less experienced swimmers. The injured alligator that would become Brother was found by Samuel on June 3, 1841, during a solo fishing expedition along a quiet section of the Yazoo River, approximately 2 miles from the plantation's main buildings. Samuel had been checking trot lines for catfish when he discovered the alligator, approximately 3 years old and measuring roughly 4 feet in length, trapped in shallow water near the riverbank with a massive wound across its back where another alligator's bite had torn away scales and underlying tissue, exposing muscle and creating an infection that was clearly killing the animal. The alligator was too weak to move aggressively, its eyes filmed over with the torpor that precedes death. And conventional wisdom said Samuel should either leave it to die or kill it for the hide that might be worth $1.50 if processed correctly. "You're dying," Samuel said quietly to the injured alligator as he made the decision that would define the next 12 years of his life. Wading carefully into the shallow water and examining the wound more closely while the alligator remained too debilitated to respond defensively. "That infection is going to kill you in maybe 2 or 3 days if nothing changes." but I know about infections. I watched the plantation physician treat infected wounds on people. I know what works. And you? You're beautiful. You're powerful. You're everything I'm not because you're free in this river while I'm chained to that plantation. So I'm going to save you. And maybe, if you survive, maybe you'll remember that I saved you. Maybe you'll be grateful. Maybe you'll help me someday. The healing process that began in June 1841 required medical knowledge that Samuel had accumulated through careful observation over years of watching the plantation physician, Dr. Marcus Whitfield, treat injuries among enslaved workers. The primary challenge was controlling the infection, which required cleaning the wound daily with water boiled to kill contaminants, then applying a poultice made from crushed willow bark that contained natural antimicrobial compounds, and finally covering the wound with clean cloth to protect it from further contamination. Samuel visited the injured alligator twice daily for 3 weeks, bringing supplies he'd stolen from the plantation infirmary in quantities small enough that their absence wouldn't be noticed. Strips of cotton cloth, willow bark collected from trees along the river, a small clay pot for boiling water over carefully concealed fires. "You're still alive," Samuel observed during his morning visit on June 11th, 8 days into the treatment regimen, speaking quietly to the alligator as he cleaned the wound and applied fresh poultice. The alligator had gained enough strength to respond to Samuel's presence with low hissing sounds, but it didn't attempt to flee or attack, seemingly recognizing through some instinctive calculation that Samuel's interventions were helping rather than threatening. "The infection is getting better. The wound is closing. You're going to survive. And when you're healed, you're going to remember me. You're going to know that I'm the one who saved you. That's going to create a bond between us. That's what I'm counting on." The bond that Samuel was deliberately cultivating went beyond simple conditioning or training. He was attempting to create genuine emotional connection based on the emerging scientific understanding that alligators, despite their reputation as primitive reptiles, possessed more sophisticated cognitive and emotional capacities than previously recognized. Modern research would eventually demonstrate that crocodilians engage in complex social behaviors, including cooperation, communication, and even play, and that they can form recognition relationships with specific individuals who provide consistent, positive interactions. Samuel was intuitively discovering these capacities through daily contact with the recovering alligator, noting how it responded differently to his voice compared to other sounds, how it remained calm during treatments that should have triggered defensive aggression, and how it began following Samuel through the shallow water when he moved away after completing medical procedures. "You're following me," Samuel said with surprise and satisfaction on June 18th, 15 days into treatment, when the alligator swam behind him as he waded toward the riverbank to leave. "You're choosing to stay close to me, even though you're strong enough now to swim away into deeper water where I couldn't follow. That means you're forming attachment. You're recognizing me as important to you. That's exactly what I need. That's the foundation for everything I'm planning." The healing process was complete by early July 1841, approximately 4 weeks after Samuel had begun treatment. When the wound had closed completely and new scales were beginning to grow over the previously exposed tissue. But Samuel continued visiting the alligator daily, not for medical treatment, but for bonding activities that would deepen their relationship and establish the trust necessary for the unprecedented cooperation he was envisioning. These bonding sessions included feeding the alligator by hand with fish, Samuel caught specifically for that purpose, conditioning the alligator to associate Samuel's presence with reliable food rewards, swimming with the alligator in shallow water, demonstrating through repeated non-threatening contact that Samuel was not prey and posed no danger, creating distinctive sound patterns, a specific whistle sequence that Samuel used consistently before each visit, that the alligator learned to recognize as announcing Samuel's arrival. And most importantly, touching the alligator extensively, stroking its head and back in ways that mimic the tactile stimulation mother alligators provide to their young, creating sensory associations between Samuel's touch and feelings of safety and comfort. "Brother," Samuel said during a bonding session in September 1841, 3 months into their relationship, giving the alligator the name that would define their connection. "That's what you are to me. Not a pet, not a tool, not a weapon. My brother. The only real family I have left since they sold my father away. You and me, we're brothers who look after each other. I saved your life, and someday you're going to save mine. That's what brothers do." The name was prophetic in ways Samuel couldn't fully anticipate. Over the next 3 years, from 1841 to 1844, Samuel and brother developed a relationship that transcended anything documented in the scientific literature about human-alligator interactions. They spent an average of 3 hours together daily, with Samuel visiting brother's territory in the river every morning before plantation work began, and every evening after work ended. During these visits, they engaged in behaviors that looked remarkably like play. Samuel would throw sticks into the water, and brother would retrieve them and bring them back, mirroring the play behavior observed in more cognitively advanced species. They would swim together in coordinated patterns, with brother matching Samuel's swimming speed and direction as though they were a hunting pair. And they would rest together on the riverbank, with Samuel sitting beside brother and stroking the alligator's head while speaking quietly about his experiences on the plantation, using brother as a confidant who provided emotional support simply through presence and physical contact. "The overseer beat my mother today because she couldn't meet her cotton-picking quota," Samuel told brother during an evening session in March 1842, speaking in a tone mixing anger and grief while stroking brother's head in the rhythmic pattern the alligator had come to expect and value. She's 43 years old, and her hands don't work as fast as they used to because arthritis makes her fingers hurt. But the overseer doesn't care about arthritis. He just cares about numbers. 75 pounds of cotton per day, that's the quota. She picked 68 pounds, so he beat her with a leather strap 20 times across her back. I could hear her screaming from the fields. And I couldn't do anything to stop it because if I tried to intervene, they'd beat me too, or worse. But brother, someday I'm going to be able to stop them. Someday you're going to help me stop them. That's the plan I've been developing. You and me, working together, we're going to kill the people who hurt us. We're going to kill them all. The assassination plan that Samuel was formulating relied on capabilities that brother was developing as he matured from a 4-foot juvenile to a 6-foot young adult during the 3 years between 1841 and 1844. By May 1844, when the photograph was taken, brother weighed approximately 110 pounds and possessed bite force estimated at 1/400 pounds per square inch, powerful enough to crush human bones or tear away limbs if applied correctly. More importantly, brother had developed responsiveness to Samuel's verbal and physical signals that went far beyond simple conditioning. Brother appeared to understand Samuel's emotional states, responding with increased alertness when Samuel was agitated and with calm attentiveness when Samuel was relaxed, suggesting that their bond included genuine emotional communication rather than just stimulus response patterns. "We're going to start practice attacks," Samuel told brother in April 1844, 1 month before the photograph, initiating the training phase that would transform their emotional bond into operational cooperation. "I've made training dummies that look and smell like humans. We're going to practice attacking them together. You'll learn to strike when I signal, to target specific body areas I indicate, and to coordinate your attacks with my actions, so we're working as a team rather than as individual actors." This is going to be different from how other people train attack animals. I'm not going to use pain or fear or dominance. I'm going to use our brotherhood. I'm going to ask you to help me because you love me and because you understand that the people we're going to kill are the same people who hurt both of us. The training methodology Samuel developed was unprecedented in its reliance on cooperation rather than coercion. Traditional animal training, especially for attack purposes, typically involved punishment-based methods where the animal learned to perform specific behaviors to avoid pain or discomfort. Samuel's approach was the opposite. He used positive reinforcement combined with emotional communication, asking Brother to perform attack behaviors while simultaneously conveying through voice tone, body language, and direct physical contact that these attacks were acts of mutual protection and revenge rather than arbitrary demands. The training sessions followed consistent patterns. Samuel would construct human-shaped dummies from burlap and Spanish moss, position them in shallow water, then approach the dummy while calling Brother to join him. Together, they would attack the dummy, with Samuel grabbing and holding the upper body, while Brother bit and rolled the lower body, practicing coordinated techniques that would overwhelm any human victim. Together, Samuel commanded during a practice session in May 1844, 1 week before the photograph. His voice calm but urgent as he grabbed the training dummy's shoulders while Brother simultaneously struck the dummy's legs with explosive acceleration. The coordination was remarkable. Samuel's grip prevented the dummy from toppling forward, while Brother's bite and death roll pulled it sideways and down, creating combined forces that would snap human bones and guarantee rapid incapacitation of any real victim. Good, Brother. That's perfect. We work together. I control the upper body, you destroy the lower body. Any human caught between us has no chance of escape or effective resistance. That's the technique we're going to use. That's how brothers fight together. But Samuel needed more than just coordinated attack techniques. He needed Brother to identify specific targets and to understand which humans should be attacked and which should be left unharmed. Creating a discrimination system that would allow selective assassinations without endangering enslaved people or creating uncontrolled violence. The solution Samuel developed was brilliantly simple. He would physically touch the target person shortly before the planned attack, leaving his scent on the target's clothing or skin, and Brother would track that scent and attack the person carrying it. The scent discrimination was reinforced through training sessions, where Samuel would scent some dummies with his hand contact and leave others unscented, rewarding Brother for attacking only the scented targets while ignoring the unscented ones. This one, Samuel said during a discrimination training session in May 1844, touching one of 3 dummies positioned in the river while leaving the other 2 untouched. Attack this one, leave the others alone. The touch is the signal. My scent on the target means attack. No scent means safe. You need to learn this discrimination perfectly because when we start real operations, there will be enslaved people nearby who must not be harmed. You attack only the targets I've marked, only the people who deserve death. Do you understand? Brother's response suggested understanding beyond simple conditioning. The alligator would approach all 3 dummies, smell them carefully, then specifically attack the one Samuel had touched while swimming past the others without aggression. The discrimination was consistent across dozens of training repetitions, demonstrating that Brother had learned the complex rule. Samuel's scent marks targets worthy of attack. Absence of scent marks innocence requiring protection. We're ready, Samuel told Brother during their final training session before the planned first assassination, speaking on the riverbank where they would pose for the photograph 2 days later. You're 6 feet long now. You weigh 110 pounds. Your bite force is strong enough to break human bones. More importantly, You understand me. You respond to my signals. You discriminate between targets and innocents based on my scent marks. You coordinate attacks with my actions, and most importantly, you trust me completely. You love me the way I love you. We're brothers, and tomorrow we're going to use our brotherhood to kill Victor Samuels, the overseer who beat my mother 20 times for picking 68 pounds of cotton instead of 75. He's going to die, and it's going to be the first of many deaths over the next 9 years. That's the plan. That's what brothers do for each other. The photograph taken on May 12, 1844, shows Samuel embracing brother with obvious affection, and William Harrison noted in his journal that evening, "I photographed the most extraordinary scene today. A young slave boy holding an alligator as though it were a beloved pet dog. The boy claims he saved the alligator's life when it was injured, and that they've been constant companions for 3 years. The alligator appeared completely calm despite my presence, and despite the long exposure time required for the photograph. The boy spoke to the alligator throughout the session, calling it brother and stroking its head with obvious affection. I've photographed many unusual animal relationships, but I've never seen anything suggesting this level of genuine bond between human and reptile. If I hadn't witnessed it personally, I would dismiss such a relationship as impossible. But executing the assassination plan required perfect setup for the first killing. Victor Samuels had to be in a location where alligator attack was plausible. His death had to appear completely accidental, and Samuel needed perfect alibi, proving he was nowhere near the attack site. The opportunity came on May 15, 1844, 3 days after the photograph, when Samuels announced he would be conducting an evening inspection of the riverfront fishing stations, a routine that required walking along the riverbank through sections where alligators were known to bask. Samuels inspects the fishing stations every Tuesday evening around 7 p.m. Samuel told brother during their afternoon session on May 14th, the day before the planned assassination. Tomorrow I'm going to find a way to touch him during the day, maybe bumping into him accidentally or handing him something he requests. That touch will mark him with my scent. Tomorrow evening you'll be waiting near the fishing stations. When Samuels walks past during his inspection and you smell my scent on him, you attack. Full aggression. Drag him into the river. Death roll. Maintain submersion until drowning is complete. I won't be anywhere nearby. I'll be in the cotton fields with 24 witnesses who can confirm I was picking cotton from 6 p.m. until dark. The attack will look like random alligator predation. No one will suspect it was planned. No one will suspect we worked together to kill him. That's how brotherhood works. We protect each other while destroying our enemies. Chapter 2. Victor Samuels died on May 15, 1844, at approximately 7:23 p.m. when brother struck from ambush position in shallow water along the riverbank, approximately 40 feet from the second fishing station during Samuel's routine evening inspection. The attack was witnessed by no one because Samuel had carefully chosen timing and location that would ensure privacy. But Samuel's body was discovered at 8:47 p.m. when other overseers organized a search party after he failed to return from the inspection. The discovery site showed clear evidence of alligator attack. Massive bite wounds on both legs where brother's jaws had closed with crushing force. Drag marks in the mud showing where the body had been pulled into deeper water. And drowning as the ultimate cause of death based on water in the lungs and the absence of immediately fatal injuries despite the severe leg trauma. The plantation physician who examined the body determined death was accidental alligator attack. The 23rd such death documented in Mississippi's Yazoo River region over the previous 5 years, and therefore not unusual enough to trigger investigation beyond basic documentation. Samuels's death is unfortunate but not unexpected. Thomas Patterson announced to his remaining overseers during a meeting on May 17th, 2 days after the killing. Alligators are a constant hazard along the river. Everyone who works here knows the risks. Samuels was conducting inspections alone at dusk, which is when alligators are most active. He paid the price for poor judgment. The rest of you will be more careful. Conduct riverbank inspections in pairs. Carry firearms. Remain alert. Follow these precautions, and you'll avoid Samuel's fate. The precautions proved worthless because they assumed random wildlife attacks rather than coordinated assassinations by human-alligator partnership operating with unprecedented sophistication. Over the next 9 years, between May 1844 and August 1853, Samuel and brother would kill 22 more people through attacks that demonstrated escalating complexity and psychological impact, culminating in the spectacular massacre of August 17, 1852, when they killed 8 overseers in a single night during a plantation gathering, creating mass panic that would ultimately free 237 enslaved people, when terrified plantation owners abandoned their properties rather than face what they believed was supernatural retribution. The second assassination occurred on August 3, 1844, 11 weeks after Samuel's death, targeting an overseer named James Thornton, who worked on the adjacent Whitfield plantation and who was notorious for using water torture as punishment. Forcing enslaved workers to stand chest-deep in the river for hours while bound, a practice that had resulted in 2 deaths when actual wild alligators had attacked the immobilized victims. Samuel had selected Thornton as the second target, both because eliminating him would remove a sadistic punishment method, and because Thornton's routine evening fishing at a known location made him vulnerable to attack. That would appear natural. Thornton fishes at the North Bend every evening. Samuel told brother during their afternoon session on August 2nd, speaking quietly while stroking brother's head in the ritual they'd established over 3 years of bonding. Tomorrow, I'm going to approach him during the day with a question about fishing equipment. I'll touch his shoulder while talking to him. That will mark him with my scent. Tomorrow evening, he'll be at the North Bend, standing in a waist-deep water while fishing, completely vulnerable. You'll attack when you smell my scent on him. Fast strike to the legs, death roll to pull him underwater, maintain submersion until drowning is complete. I'll be at the plantation quarters with witnesses who can confirm I was nowhere near the river. This has to look completely natural, brother. Just another tragic alligator attack. No one can know we're working together. The attack occurred at 6:34 p.m. on August 3rd, exactly as planned. Thornton was standing in waist-deep water casting a fishing line when brother struck with explosive acceleration, covering 12 feet in less than 2 seconds and closing powerful jaws on Thornton's right leg just below the knee. The bite crushed the tibia and fibula simultaneously, and the immediate death roll pulled Thornton completely underwater before he could scream for help. The entire attack lasted approximately 41 seconds from initial strike to Thornton's death from drowning. And brother released the body after maintaining submersion for an additional 6 minutes to ensure death was certain. Thornton's body was discovered at 7:58 p.m. by other plantation workers who'd become concerned when he failed to return from his fishing session. 2 overseer deaths from alligator attacks in 11 weeks. Plantation owners discussed at a regional meeting on August 7th, 4 days after Thornton's death. Samuels at Patterson's plantation, Thornton at Whitfield's plantation. Different locations, different circumstances, but both killed by what appears to be large alligators using aggressive hunting behavior. Is this random? Or are we seeing increased alligator populations along the Yazoo River that's creating more frequent human encounters? The questions reflected genuine concern, but not yet panic. Alligator attacks occurred regularly enough in Mississippi's river country that 2 deaths in 11 weeks was unusual, but not unprecedented. The plantation owner's response was to organize hunting efforts targeting large alligators in the immediate region, offering bounties of $12 per alligator over 7 feet in length. "I'll participate in the alligator hunts," Samuel volunteered when the hunting effort was announced. "I spend more time on the river than anyone else on this plantation. I know alligator behavior and territory. If there's an aggressive alligator causing problems, I can help locate it." The offer established Samuel as actively working to eliminate the threat, while actually ensuring he could protect Brother by monitoring hunting efforts and redirecting hunters away from Brother's actual territory in the quiet river section where they met daily. The hunting parties killed 37 alligators over 2 months from August through September 1844, including 4 specimens over 8 feet in length. But they never found Brother, because Samuel carefully guided them toward areas where wild alligators were common, while avoiding the specific river bends where Brother actually lived. The failure to reduce attack frequency, despite eliminating numerous large alligators, reinforced the theory that attacks were random events rather than systematic targeting. The third assassination occurred on November 19, 1844. Targeting a plantation owner named Harrison Dobbs, who owned 167 enslaved people, and who had recently purchased Samuel's childhood friend in a transaction that separated the friend from his wife and 3 young children. The fourth assassination occurred on February 8, 1845, targeting an overseer named William Crawford, who'd killed an enslaved teenager by beating him to death for allegedly talking back during work assignments. The fifth assassination occurred on May 23, 1845, targeting a slave catcher named Robert Harrison, who'd made a career of tracking escaped workers and who used attack dogs that he deliberately starved to increase their aggression during captures. Each assassination followed refined variations of the pattern Samuel had established with Samuels and Thornton. Identify a morally legitimate target whose death would improve conditions for enslaved people. Find opportunities to mark the target with Samuel's scent through incidental physical contact. Position Brother in locations where the target would be vulnerable. Ensure Samuel had perfect alibi during attack time. Allow Brother to execute the coordinated attack. And confirm afterward that the death was attributed to natural alligator predation. The pattern was successful 5 times over the first year, with all deaths officially determined to be accidental alligator attacks. 5 alligator attack deaths in 13 months in a 25-mile river section, Sheriff Daniel Morrison observed during a meeting with plantation owners on June 4, 1845. That's approximately 5 times the normal rate for this region. We've organized 2 major hunting efforts that killed 84 alligators, including 11 specimens over 8 feet. Yet, attacks continue. This suggests either we're missing the specific aggressive animal responsible, or we're dealing with multiple aggressive alligators. Or, and I hesitate to say this because it sounds absurd, something more deliberate is happening. The sheriff's observation about something more deliberate was dangerously close to the truth, but without evidence that a trained alligator existed or that someone might be coordinating attacks. The comment was dismissed as speculation. The plantation owner's response was to increase patrols along the river and to implement stricter protocols requiring overseers to work in pairs near water. They're implementing new protocols, Samuel told Brother during their evening session in June 1845. Speaking with concern as he processed the implications of increased security. Overseers are supposed to work in pairs now. That makes assassinations more difficult because attacking 2 people simultaneously creates risks of witnesses and failed attacks. We need to adapt. We need to develop techniques for attacking multiple targets or for isolating single targets from their partners. This is going to require more sophisticated planning. The adaptation Samuel developed involved 2 new techniques. First, attacking targets who momentarily separated from their partners due to natural circumstances, like one person moving upstream while the other stayed downstream. And second, attacking during nighttime hours when darkness reduced witnesses' ability to observe attacks clearly, and when brothers' natural advantages, excellent night vision, silent movement through water, camouflage coloring, made detection nearly impossible until attack was already occurring. The 6th through 15th assassinations, occurring between July 1845 and December 1849, a period of 4.5 years, killed 10 more people using these adapted techniques. The victims included 5 overseers who'd been particularly brutal, 3 plantation owners who collectively controlled 412 enslaved people, 1 plantation physician named Dr. Marcus Whitfield, who'd been conducting forced medical experiments on enslaved children to test treatments before using them on white patients, and 1 additional slave catcher who specialized in tracking runaways through river territory. Each death was attributed to alligator attack, though the clustering of deaths among specific demographic groups, overseers and wealthy plantation owners rather than field workers or enslaved people, began creating whispered speculation among the enslaved community that something protective was operating, eliminating their oppressors while leaving them unharmed. People are starting to call Brother the River Guardian, Samuel's mother told him during a quiet conversation in January 1850. Speaking carefully because even discussing such topics could be dangerous. The enslaved workers believe there's a spirit in the river that kills cruel overseers and slave owners, but protects enslaved people. They say no enslaved person has been killed by alligator attack in 5 years, while 15 overseers and owners have died. They say the River Guardian can sense evil in men's hearts and strikes only those who deserve death. Samuel, I don't know if you know anything about this, but if you do, be careful. The plantation owners are starting to notice the pattern too. The warning was timely. By 1850, 6 years into the assassination campaign, plantation owners were indeed beginning to notice that deaths were disproportionately affecting their staff and peer class, rather than occurring randomly across the population. Regional meetings featured increasingly anxious discussions about whether the River Guardian legend might reflect actual targeted predation, though most owners dismissed supernatural explanations in favor of assuming that overseers' work patterns simply exposed them to greater risk. 15 deaths in 6 years, all affecting overseers or plantation owners, plantation owner Charles Bennett observed during a meeting in March 1850. Meanwhile, 0 deaths among enslaved workers during the same period, despite the fact that enslaved people spend far more time in and around the river than overseers do. The statistical improbability is extraordinary. Either we're experiencing remarkable bad luck that selectively affects our class, or something is deliberately targeting us. I don't believe in spirits or river guardians, but I'm starting to believe that maybe someone has found a way to use alligators as weapons. The observation was accurate, but incomplete. Bennett correctly identified that targeting was occurring, but he couldn't imagine the mechanism. That a teenaged enslaved boy had formed an unprecedented emotional bond with an alligator, and was using scent marking combined with verbal and physical signals to coordinate assassinations that appeared natural. Without understanding the mechanism, plantation owners couldn't develop effective countermeasures beyond general precautions that Samuel and Brother could easily circumvent. But Samuel's most ambitious plan was still ahead. The mass assassination that would kill 8 overseers in a single night and create psychological impacts so severe that it would trigger plantation abandonments. The opportunity arose from an annual event that plantation owners had organized since 1847. A summer gathering where overseers from multiple plantations met at a riverfront location for an evening of drinking, gambling, and recreation. Ostensibly for morale purposes, but actually serving as informal networking where overseers shared tactics for controlling enslaved populations. The gathering for 1852 was scheduled for August 17th at a riverside clearing approximately 2 miles from the Patterson plantation, with 11 overseers expected to attend. 8 overseers in one location for an entire evening. Samuel told Brother during their planning session in July 1852, speaking with intensity as he outlined the most complex operation they'd ever attempted. "This is our opportunity to strike a blow that will terrify every plantation owner in Mississippi. If we can kill 8 overseers in one night, during a gathering where they supposedly had safety in numbers, it will shatter their confidence completely. They'll believe the river guardian is real and is powerful enough to kill multiple people simultaneously. Some will abandon their plantations rather than face what they'll think is supernatural retribution. That could free dozens or even hundreds of enslaved people when plantations close and workers are sold or released. But brother, this requires coordination we've never attempted. I need you to attack 8 different targets over the course of maybe 4 or 5 hours, allowing recovery time between attacks, targeting only the people I mark with my scent. Can you do this? Can we do this together?" The planning for the August 17th massacre was extraordinarily detailed. Samuel needed to mark 8 specific targets with his scent during the gathering, without creating suspicion about why he was having contact with so many overseers. The solution was to volunteer to serve alcohol at the gathering, a role that would give him natural pretexts for touching each overseer when handing them drinks or collecting empty glasses. The attack sequence would proceed incrementally. Brother would strike targets one at a time as they isolated themselves from the group. Some walking to the river to urinate, others wandering away from the gathering to vomit after excessive drinking, others simply seeking privacy for various reasons. Each attack would occur in darkness, in water, with Brother executing rapid strikes followed by immediate drag and drown techniques that would minimize noise and prevent victims from calling for help. "I'm going to mark 8 targets tonight," Samuel told Brother on the afternoon of August 17th, 1852, during their final preparation session. Their names are William Jessup, Marcus Powell, James Sterling, Robert Whitmore, Henry Davidson, Charles Wilkins, Thomas Freeman, and Daniel Morrison. All brutal men, all responsible for deaths of enslaved people. Tonight they die. I'll mark them by touching them when I serve drinks. You'll wait in the river near the gathering site. When each marked target enters the water, and they will, because I'll make sure the alcohol is strong enough that they'll need to urinate frequently, you attack. 1 target at a time over maybe 4 hours. By midnight, 8 will be dead. The others will find bodies starting around 11 p.m. or midnight when people notice missing friends. That's when the real terror begins. That's when they realize the river guardian is real and is powerful beyond anything they imagined. Are you ready, brother? Is our bond strong enough to accomplish this? Brother's response was the same calm attentiveness that had characterized their relationship for 11 years. And Samuel felt confidence that their partnership would succeed in executing the most ambitious assassination operation in Mississippi history. The massacre began at 8:47 p.m. when William Jessup, the first marked target, walked away from the gathering to urinate in the river. Brother struck approximately 8 seconds after Jessup entered thigh-deep water, executing a perfect attack. Bite to the legs, death roll, drag to deeper water, maintained submersion for 93 seconds until drowning was complete. Jessup's body drifted downstream approximately 40 yards before lodging against a fallen tree, where it would be discovered much later. The second victim, Marcus Powell, died at 9:23 p.m. using the same pattern. The third victim, James Sterling, died at 9:58 p.m. The fourth victim, Robert Whitmore, died at 10:34 p.m. By 11 p.m., 4 overseers were dead, and the other 7 attendees at the gathering hadn't yet noticed anyone was missing because alcohol consumption had impaired their awareness. The discovery of the first body occurred at 11:17 p.m. when one of the surviving overseers walked downstream and encountered Jessup's corpse lodged against the tree. The alarm was immediate and panicked. "Jessup's dead! Alligator attack! Everyone out of the water!" The gathering transformed from relaxed recreation to frantic headcount. And within 5 minutes, they'd identified that 4 people were missing: Jessup, Powell, Sterling, and Whitmore. Search parties found Powell's body at 11:34 p.m. and Sterling's body at 11:41 p.m., both showing clear evidence of alligator attack. Whitmore's body was found at 11:56 p.m. 4 deaths in just over 3 hours, all at the same location, all during a gathering that was supposed to provide safety through numbers. The River Guardian is real, one of the surviving overseers whispered in terror as they examined the 4 bodies. It killed 4 men in one night, while we were all here together. This isn't natural alligator behavior. This is deliberate. This is something hunting us specifically. We need to leave. Now. Before it comes back. But Brother wasn't finished. As the surviving overseers prepared to flee the riverside clearing, 4 more marked targets remained alive, and Brother continued executing attacks whenever opportunities presented. Henry Davidson died at 12:23 a.m. when he entered the river despite warnings, driven by alcohol-impaired judgment. Charles Wilkins died at 12:47 a.m. during the evacuation when he slipped and fell into water while trying to climb into a boat. Thomas Freeman died at 1:08 a.m. when he attempted to retrieve belongings left near the riverbank. Daniel Morrison died at 1:34 a.m. when he dove into the river trying to rescue Freeman. By 2:00 a.m. on August 18, 1852, 8 overseers were dead, killed by coordinated attacks executed by Brother under Samuel's direction, representing the largest single-night mass killing in Mississippi plantation history. 8 dead in one night at one location, Sheriff Morrison reported during an emergency meeting on August 19th, his voice shaking as he described events that defied natural explanation. 4 bodies found by midnight, 4 more found over the next 2 hours, all killed by alligator attacks. All marked targets were overseers. None of the enslaved workers who were present serving alcohol were harmed. Gentlemen, I don't know what we're dealing with, but it's not random wildlife. Either there's an exceptionally large and aggressive alligator operating in that river section, or, and many people are saying this, the River Guardian legend is real, and something supernatural is eliminating plantation overseers and owners. The psychological impact of the August 17th massacre was exactly what Samuel had intended. Absolute terror among the planter class. Within 2 weeks, 3 plantation owners announced they were selling their properties and leaving Mississippi. Within 2 months, 4 more plantations were abandoned when owners couldn't recruit replacement overseers willing to work in the region. Within 6 months, a total of 7 plantations had been abandoned or sold at deeply discounted prices, representing approximately 1,240 enslaved people who were either redistributed to other properties or, in some cases, freed when estates entered complex probate proceedings that made continuation of slavery legally difficult. The region is collapsing. Plantation owner Thomas Patterson complained during a meeting in February 1853, 6 months after the massacre. 7 plantations abandoned. Overseer recruitment is impossible. Enslaved workers are openly discussing the River Guardian as their protector and becoming increasingly bold in small acts of resistance. Some are attempting escape at rates 3 times higher than before the massacre because they believe the River Guardian will protect them in the river. This is destroying everything we've built. We need to kill whatever alligator is responsible, and we need to do it immediately. The state deployed specialized hunting units in March 1853, consisting of professional alligator hunters supported by state militia, with orders to eliminate every large alligator in the Yazoo River region. The operation continued through July 1853, killing 274 alligators, including 52 specimens over 8 feet. But Brother was never found because Samuel, recognizing that the massacre had created unsustainable attention, had relocated Brother to remote swamp territory 50 miles away, where human presence was minimal. "We accomplished what we needed to accomplish," Samuel told Brother during their final meeting in September 1853, speaking with tears as he processed that separation was necessary for both their survivals. 8 in one night. 7 plantations abandoned. Maybe 200 people freed or redistributed to places where conditions might be better. "We changed everything, Brother. And now you need to disappear. Live in that remote swamp where no hunters will find you. Live out your natural life. Maybe another 30 or 40 years. And Brother, thank you. Thank you for being my family when I had none. Thank you for being my weapon when I needed one. Thank you for loving me the way I loved you. We're brothers forever, even if we never see each other again." Samuel walked away from the swamp on September 14, 1853, and never saw Brother again, though he would hear occasional reports over the next 25 years about an unusually large alligator spotted in remote swamp regions, suggesting Brother had survived and thrived in his new territory. Samuel Price was freed in April 1865 when Union forces occupied Mississippi and the 13th Amendment ended slavery. He moved to Memphis, worked as a carpenter, married in 1866, had 5 children, and lived until 1901 when he died at age 73 from heart failure. He never publicly discussed Brother or the 23 assassinations, but he privately told the complete story to his eldest daughter in 1899, 2 years before his death. Feeling safe enough after 34 years to document what he'd accomplished. "I raised an alligator from near death and created a bond with him that transcended anything documented in nature," Samuel told his daughter. "We loved each other. That's not metaphor. That's literal truth. And because we loved each other, we were able to accomplish things that should have been impossible. 23 people died by Brother's jaws over 9 years. 12 overseers, 8 plantation owners, 2 slave catchers, 1 physician who experimented on children. 8 of those deaths occurred in a single night in August 1852, creating the massacre that forced 7 plantations to close and that freed or relocated 237 enslaved people. I don't regret any of it. Those people built their power on cruelty and slavery. Brother and I fought back using the only weapon we had, our brotherhood." The daughter recorded the account in a memoir that remained private until 2008, when her great-granddaughter donated family papers to the Mississippi Department of Archives and History. Modern historians initially dismissed the account as folklore, but subsequent research revealed documentation supporting its credibility. Official records showing 23 deaths attributed to alligator attacks between 1844 and 1853 in the Yazoo River region, newspaper articles describing the August 17, 1852 massacre, financial records showing 7 plantation closures between August 1852 and February 1853, and most compellingly, modern research on crocodilian cognition demonstrating that these animals can form recognition bonds with specific humans and can learn complex cooperative behaviors, exactly what Samuel described. The photograph taken May 12, 1844, was rediscovered in 2011 and donated to the Smithsonian. Analysis confirmed Samuel was holding a young adult alligator approximately 6 feet long, and that his body language suggested genuine affection rather than fear or restraint. The positioning supported accounts that unprecedented emotional bonding had occurred. Brother's fate remains unknown. American alligators can live 35 to 50 years in the wild, meaning Brother could potentially have survived until approximately 1876-1891. No confirmed alligator attacks occurred in the remote swamp region where Samuel relocated Brother, suggesting Brother either died shortly after relocation or successfully avoided humans for the remainder of his life. Victor Samuels died May 15, 1844, age 39. James Thornton died August 3, 1844, age 34. Harrison Dobbs died November 19, 1844, age 53. William Crawford died February 8, 1845, age 37. Robert Harrison died May 23, 1845, age 41. 10 more died between 1845 and 1849, ages ranging 32 to 56. 8 died August 17, 18, 1852. William Jessup, age 42. Marcus Powell, age 38. James Sterling, age 36. Robert Whitmore, age 43. Henry Davidson, age 39. Charles Wilkins, age 35. Thomas Freeman, age 41. Daniel Morrison, age 37. 23 people dead in 9 years. Combined authority over 2,947 enslaved people. 7 plantations abandoned representing 1,340 workers redistributed or freed. 1 alligator raised from near death to 11-foot predator over 12 years. 1 boy who loved an alligator and changed Mississippi history. That's what happened.